Hey folks, John Kelly. Welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach, Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. I'm going to pat myself on the back. I told you from day one when I started this thing that I was going to have subject matter experts, right? Not because of some lofty degree, but because of their heart and their passion and the fact that they lived a life. And today I have Lieutenant Colonel Grossman, Dave Grossman, sitting down with us. I could go on and on with his accolades and the things that he has done for the military and first responder community. And I sum it up. He's a man of faith that has never stopped believing in our ability to do more for our fellow human beings. That's my takeaway without meeting him. And I'm sure it's going to be even further cemented in my brain and in my heart after this discussion. So, folks, without further ado, I wanted to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman to the Law Enforcement Life Coach, Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. Colonel,
Cool.
Man, it is great to see you, sir.
My pleasure, John. It's my honor. I love what you said about sometimes heroes need helps. One of the things that I say, and it's common ground right from the beginning, is how can you help others if you can't help yourself? And I want to tell the audience right up front, I love your book. It's just crisp and clean, directly to the point. It's not intimidating. It's just so good.
Thank you.
But you talked about how I never stopped loving my wife. I stopped loving myself. And
is this the part in the program where you start making me cry?
It's kind of a, when you're airplane, an oxygen mask comes down, you're traveling with the child.
Right.
What do you have to do before you put the child's mask on?
Got to take care of yourself.
Put yours on first.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental law of survival. Before you can help anybody else survive, you have to survive yourself.
Yes.
And this idea, from obviously a scriptural standpoint,
Sure.
God loves us with a deep and abiding, this infinity and beyond any love we can understand.
Right.
And he said, greater love is known than this. They give their life for their friends.
Sure.
But there's many ways to give your life.
Most certainly.
You got to begin, and it's perfectly okay to love yourself. Now, we love others.
We can't move forward if we don't do that.
And that's scriptural, it's biblical.
Right.
God loves us, and we're, that's, when we confront suicide, for example,
Right.
We say, that our mission in life is to love God and love others. I've lost a brother and 2 nephews to suicide, and I can tell you that it's an action that causes deep and profound harm and pain to others.
Never ending. Never ending.
Never ends. Every time you hear that name, every time you hear somebody with that same name, you go through this cycle of grief and sorrow and guilt and what could I have said, what could I have done type process. And it all revolves around love, and greater love is known than this. They give their life for their friends, but there's many ways to give your life.
There is, and there one of those many ways is a way that you've spoken about, and you say sometimes the ultimate expression of love is not to sacrifice your life, but to live a life of sacrifice.
And that's going to go on my gravestone.
I said. I think that's just so profound, and it's
you can take about any word salad and plug it into Google and see that somebody else has already said it. But that one there,
that's yours, sir.
Sometimes the greatest love is not to sacrifice your life, but to live a life of sacrifice, and that's our goal. And there's great power in that. But I love, you kind of began your book with this philosophy right up front. This should just grip us all. Those who make it to the other side, those who have retired, right? Not necessarily those who died, but those who have successfully retired are morally obligated to share their experiences with those still fighting the good fight, and to help those who are still fighting the good fight. The elephant, big bull elephant, it stays with the herd, and then one day he can't keep up with the herd. And you know what he does? He just dies. He doesn't eat grass that good elephants would be eating anymore. He can't keep up with the herd. His purpose is no longer there. And so he just rolls over and dies.
Hmm.
And when you stop loving, when you stop giving, you just die. So this idea that retirement is an opportunity to bring you to a new level of contribution, to a new level. And it doesn't have to be some mega thing like a podcast. It can be listening to a podcast and enriching yourself. It doesn't have to be writing books on it like you've done, we've done. It can be reading books about it and being prepared to help somebody. Offering out that hand, swinging back by the department, to swinging back by the people, staying in touch. You're the old timer. You're the one that made it to the other side, and they need to hear from you.
That's awesome.
It's just
both of us.
Yeah,
and listen, don't get crazy on me now. This is me interviewing you today, not you interviewing me. All right. I think what you're doing in that giving back to that law enforcement community, it's so huge. I think in a time when we've seemed to have lost our way. We're constantly being undermined. I think undermine's a great word to use, because it's one of the most noble of professions.
And well, let's start by defining the problem.
Sure.
And what I need to understand, this is so terribly important. My book, Assassination Generations, where I dug in the deepest. So I try to touch base on this with all my books. But right up into the early 1960s, Hollywood operated by a code. And the code said, we understand the stories we tell have an impact on our society. And we know we have a responsibility to tell stories that have a positive impact. And a lot of the code could be said in 3 words: crime doesn't pay. Television, movies, they operate by this code that law enforcement will not be depicted in a negative manner. Criminals will not be depicted in a positive manner.
This was right up into the 60s, huh?
Right up until the early 1960s. And I'll give you an example. A Hollywood bigwig told me one time 20 years ago, I don't know if you remember the old Perry Mason TV show.
Sure.
Big hit from the late 50s on through the mid 60s. And at their prime, after they'd been doing it for 9 seasons, it was stopped dead. And it was like #1 hit. They stopped it dead. And a year later, the same actor, the guy that played Perry Mason, his name will come to me in a bit, but he started a show called Ironsides.
Right.
And he plays this judge who'd been crippled by a criminal's bullet. And it's all about. Yes. So the thing of it was, across America, prosecutors were sending letters saying this show is destroying the jury pool. Everybody expects the guy to be innocent. Everybody expects the prosecutor to be wrong. Is there anybody? Hamilton Burgess, Hamilton Burgess was the prosecutor. Your Honor, if there was no more obnoxious character on TV than the prosecutor,
it was him.
And what was done for. And when they didn't publicly state we're canceling the show, they didn't publicly state we'd done harm. They were good people, wanted to help the society. They stopped the show dead, and they started another show with a totally different theme. The criminals are the bad guys.
Right.
The criminals crippled this man, and he's out seeking to bring criminals to justice. And we had the Death Wish movies, and the vigilante
Clint Eastwood, and
that's right. The whole vigilante, criminals are evil. They're evil. Crime is evil. And then, ever since then, we've been turning it on its head, and no civilization can survive if the people believe that law enforcement is evil.
Right.
And no civilization can survive if they believe criminals are good. And that's where we are.
Left is right, right is wrong, up is down.
And that's where you got to understand, when you're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old and you watch TV, it's real to you. You watch a movie, you play a video game, it's real.
Right. Most
I ask my audiences, you ever get dreams and real life mixed up? A while back, my son, he's in his 40s. my son asked my wife, he said, did I tell you that? Or did I just dream it? I said, well, you must have dreamed. I don't remember. As adults, have you ever been there?
Sure.
Well, with children, right up until they're 6, 7 years old, their dreams are real.
Sure
And
they
what's
are.
on TV is real. And what they see in the movies is real. So I tell people one of the most evil movies made in recent history is Training Day with Denzel Washington.
Right.
Denzel's a bad cop. They're
Right.
all bad cops. I seen Training Day. We take the most beloved black actor and he plays a bad cop. They're all bad. And
Sure.
so we got a generation, and the guy who had a stroke, the guy who's partially brain dead, won in Pennsylvania for Senate. And he was trying to explain why he was on the side of the criminals. He said, "You don't understand. It's all like the Shawshank Redemption. They're all Morgan Freeman. They're all Morgan Freeman on Shawshank Redemption, and they believe that."
Yeah.
Tell me one movie where somebody went to the death penalty and deserved it. Tell me one movie, one TV show where
Everybody's innocent.
So no civilization can survive. And we go deeper and deeper. The all-time hit video game in history, Grand Theft Auto 5, the year it came out, made more money than the entire global music industry. It's a cop killing criminal simulator. So
Right.
they're young. And then the media picks up on the narrative with the George Floyd incident.
Right.
The cops are going to kill you. The cops are irrationally killing innocent people. If you're black and you stop, you're going to get killed.
Right.
And it was a lie. It was a vicious lie. But they saw the movie. They saw the TV show. They believe the cops are evil. And so our civilization is hanging on by its fingernails. This horrendous, toxic, cancerous belief is being pumped into the mind of our children.
100%.
Now, there's a positive thing going on out there. Educators do a lot of work in schools. They tell me elementary kids all want to be cops because of the cartoon TV show, what's it, Paw Patrol.
Okay.
Paw Patrol. They all want to be the cop on Paw Patrol. And so we got a generation of elementary kids who see Paw Patrol and the cops are the good guys, but then they graduate to Morgan Freeman and Denzel Washington.
And they're playing video games and killing cops, get your points. And
so this is a dark and desperate. We don't understand how bad it is.
Right.
I'll give you an idea how bad it is. Number one, understand this. Medical technology is holding down the murder rate. Now, every cop carries a tourniquet. Cop slaps on a tourniquet, saves a crime victim's life, you prevented a murder.
Most certainly.
So the leaps and bounds of medical technology year after year are holding down the murder rate.
We're surviving at an unbelievable rate right now.
Yes. So we've got one good solid data point. In the year 2002, a UMass Harvard study, peer-reviewed journal, between the 1960s and the 1990s, medical technology cut the murder rate to a third or a quarter would otherwise be. So to compare murders between the 60s and the 90s, take the murders in the 90s and multiply by a factor of 3 or 4.
Sure.
And leaps and bounds of life-saving technology, and it's astounding. So with all that said, now imagine if somebody said, well, your grandpa made 25 cents an hour. You make $20 an hour. Look how good you got it. We all know the lie. We all immediately see the lie. We all know about inflation.
Sorry, that sneaky word.
But the whole field of criminal justice is lying.
Right.
They say, well, yeah, the murder rate's up, but it's still not as bad as the 1960s. It's a lie. Imagine every criminologist, every criminal justice guy. I beat the FBI up anytime I get them in my class. Every year the FBI tells the murder rate, and they don't tell the impact of medical technology. I was invited to the White House by Vice President Pence, and I was able to brief him. And I said, sir, we have inflation adjusted dollars. We need medically adjusted murders.
Right.
And people say, well, and he said, smart man, Vice President Pence, he said, what about the aggravated assault rate? It's too easy to fudge that data.
Okay. Yeah, dead's dead.
Yeah, dead is dead, but you got to allow for medical technology.
Sure you do.
Where do you draw that magic line to an egg assault and simple assault, right? We'll make it say whatever you want it to.
Right.
So with all that said, in 2020, we had a 30% increase in the homicide rate versus the previous year. That was the year of the George Floyd riots. Now,
Right.
the highest annual increase we've ever seen was about 12% one year in the 1960s. But again, to compare with the 1960s, you
Has
got
to be adjusted for medical technology.
the wheels have come off the bus. And
Sure.
if 2021 was the same, it would be bad. But 2021 is up another 4%. And the FBI dropped the ball on that one. No explanation. They left out New York. They left out LA. They left out the 2021 report was garbage.
Right.
And they know it. So here we are year after year using the murder rate to assess the problem. Even by that measurement, 2020 is unlike anything we've ever seen. The wheels have come off the bus. Our nation is coming unglued. And this sick message is pumped into the minds of our citizens in the news.
Yeah. I mean, how
That's
commonplace is it? I remember when there was a school shooting,
Yeah.
or there would be a holiday weekend, and there would be, the reports from the big cities on it is. I think we're numb to those numbers because it happens so frequently.
And think about this. We don't call it school massacres.
Right.
We don't call them school murders. We call them shootings.
Right.
Now, shooting is an Olympic sport. Shooting a movie, shooting a TV series wins you an Emmy, wins you an Oscar.
We're trying to sanitize a horrific event.
Shooting baskets it will make you against $1. So and then when you're a shooter, they're murderers. When the cop's a shooter, the cop's in a shooting. Oh, shootings are bad.
Yeah.
Shooters are bad. Shooters are mass murderers. So our own language poisons ourselves. We can't call a murder a shooting. We can't call a massacre a shooting.
No.
And yet the media feeds us this line, and we don't realize the harm we're doing right from the very beginning. So when you're a cop and you're in a shooting, you're condemned by your own words.
Yeah, no doubt.
We take the most horrible mass murders, we call them shootings. We don't call them massacres or murders.
Right.
So you're a shooter, they're murderers.
Oh,
There's
my
all the
goodness.
difference in the world.
Right.
Well, things are coming unglued, and that brings us back to love.
Right.
Why do we keep doing what we do? Retention is down, recruiting is down. Now, there's some good places out there. There's sheriffs who tell me deputies in my county cannot pay for a meal because if they're at a restaurant, somebody will walk up and pay for their meal.
100%. 100%.
Good places like that. Some good places like that. And why would you stay in a place where you're spit on and attacked and condemned?
Right.
When you can move to that place.
Sure, no doubt.
And be treated with the dignity and respect. So what happens is the bad gets worse. Meanwhile, as you said, recruiting is down, retention is down. What happens if nobody wants to be a cop?
Right. I think we got a lot of people playing checkers and not enough playing chess. And I don't think they've thought this through completely. At the end of the day, who are you gonna call when your life's being threatened or the life of your family?
Yes.
And we're in some dire times.
Their story is, it's all about the guns. We'll get rid of the guns. Well, how's that working for Mexico? So the strictest gun laws on the planet. How's that working for Mexico? How's that work for Brazil?
One of the most violent.
Yes, Mexico's a howling war zone. Wow, look at Australia. Australia is an island nation who have complete.
Who actually enforces their borders.
Yes, as opposed to America, we have no control of our borders.
Oh my God!
We're not like Australia. We're like Mexico. We have more in common with Mexico than we do with Canada.
Right.
And so the whole time, it's the guns. No, it's not. It's you. Right. The evil bastards with the movies and the TV shows and the video games. It's you.
And I think what are your thoughts on this? So listen, people, I think innately have a tendency to avoid asking the hard questions, especially if they require them to change what they're doing. Right. If, I don't want to know the answer if it's going to involve me, doing some sort of critique of myself and how did I contribute to this problem? But I think those kind of questions need to be asked. And I think there's a lack of, maybe oversimplifying it, ownership, personal ownership on how we, listen, we all contribute to this. If we're citizens of this country, we've contributed either by our action or inaction to the state of the union.
Yes.
And so that may take, looking in the mirror and maybe not being happy with the person looking back. But what's the solution to this, Colonel?
I'll tell you, right there.
Love.
So here's the key. Love means the worse it gets, the harder you fight.
Right.
If you had a sick child, you had a sick baby, what do? Abandon your family? Oh, I didn't sign on for this. Sick baby, I'm out of here. No. You had a sick child, you'd empty the bank account. You start a Kickstarter fund. You or your spouse would get the job to stay with the sick kid full time. That's what love means. One of the saddest country western songs ever written. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. Remember that one?
Well, of course I do. Yes.
You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. 4 hungry children and a crop in the field. I've had some bad times, lived through some sad times. This time the hurting won't heal. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. The idea of a mother abandoning her husband and 4 hungry children to go pick up a guy in a bar, it rips your heart out. That's not what love means.
No.
So here's the key. Do we love our nation? Do we love our family? Do we love our way of life? Because I'll tell you why I keep doing it. 24 years in the Army, now 25 years on the road. I'm now at the point where I spent more time retired than I spent in. I'm 66 years old. I'm on the road over 200 days a year. I get home 1, maybe 2 nights a week. Conjugal visit, clean underwear, back on the road.
It works.
Waiting at home for me is my bride of 47 years. My high school sweetheart.
Congratulations.
My high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
She was truly, she was 15. I was 17 when I proposed to her.
Wow.
We are from Arkansas.
What a great story.
2 years later, she married a crazy Army paratrooper, been in this ride with me for 47 years.
That's amazing. What a great example. What a great example to follow.
And yet, why do I spend the majority of my time on the road? And why does she put up with it?
Sure.
Because we love our children. We love our grandchildren. My grandson just graduated military basic training, was engaged to a girl in the blink of an eye, would be a great grandfather.
There you go.
And if we truly love our children, if we love our God, if we love our nation, if we love our way of life, we'll walk out that door and give 100%.
100%. That's amazing. I interviewed a young lady last week, 22 years old.
Yeah.
Just got hired with the local sheriff down here. Has been on her own for less than a month. Just got off FTO, field training. And I said to her, why?
Yeah.
Why now? Why? What's and honestly, I didn't know, Colonel. I didn't know because
good question.
If you were just looking at, CNN and Fox, you'd say, why would you ever sign up for this? And her response humbled me. She said, I've always wanted to serve. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world. I'm going to serve. And I almost fell out of my chair. I said, this 22-year-old girl is reminding me and everybody else what this thing is about. It's about caring.
Yes.
It's about caring for your fellow human being. And she's doing it.
You know what makes a great cop, John? The greatest cops are driven by love, empathy.
Yes.
Empathy. Ask this question. What if it was my child?
Right.
What if it was my wife? What if it was my family? And that empathy, that homicide investigator, that sex crimes investigator said, what if it was my wife being raped? What if it was my child being murdered? That empathy is what makes for great cops.
It does.
And we don't talk about it enough, but nobody does the job for the money.
Of course not.
And nobody does the job because you like to push people around.
Listen, the best days of my career were the days when we didn't have to fight with anyone.
Nobody wants.
No.
Cops are being condemned and attacked and have to put up with the things that cops have to put up with every day is mind-blowing. If you think they're in this job because they want to be control freaks, you're insane. So I wouldn't want to do this job. Boom.
Love.
And we love our way of life. We love our fellow man. We want to use our life to make the world a little bit better place. And that's really the heart of the
Absolutely.
matter. And you know, I love the way you ended your book, and I want to take it just a step further. I want to read this.
Okay.
It says, there is peace and calmness that come with living your best life every day. Living with no regrets means loving your imperfect self and those in your life unconditionally. Live a life where you acknowledge the blessings of the moment and where the excitement of starting a new day pulls you from your bed, eager to experience what you have in store for yourself. Live a life of loving the person staring back in the mirror. Be proud of that person for doing the hard work of making them whole. Be proud of yourself. You are a priority. How can you love other people if you can't love yourself?
Hmm.
So you know, and what this means is this: the only thing in the universe you can control is yourself.
True.
And you talk about how the past. I love the section on the past. The past is done. You got to let go of it. It'll eat your life. That's why faith is such a vital component. You know, on
Yes.
spiritual combat. You know,
Yes.
having a higher power to turn it over to. Just turn it over to God.
Yeah.
That the past is done. It'll eat you alive. You got to let go of it. Now that's hard. Easy to say. It's hard to do.
Sure.
But you got to let go of it and give it to God. The only thing in the universe you can control is yourself right now. You can't control your kids. You can't control your spouse. You can't control what other cops do. You can't control what the department does. You can't control what your nation does, except once every 4 years when you vote.
Sure.
The only thing in the universe you can control is how you choose to respond.
Right. That's why I think it's so important. That serenity prayer.
Yes.
God grant me the serenity to
Boom.
accept the things I
Yes.
cannot change,
Yes.
right? The courage to change the things that
Oh.
I can, and
Yeah.
the wisdom to know the difference. It takes a little while.
Yes. The only thing in the universe you can control is how you choose to respond.
100%.
And so if we give weight to bitterness, if we give weight to cynicism or complacency or denial, that's the one thing you can control.
Sure.
And you've given the world a victory of its own hand.
Yeah.
And we will not give them that victory.
No, why would we?
So let me talk about a couple of things you can control.
Absolutely.
Number one, this is huge, is sleep. Sleep is a biological need and a civil right. Fight for your sleep. Fight to protect your sleep. I've got a book coming out with just early stages called On Sleep.
Okay.
The tragic impact of a global epidemic of sleep deprivation. You do an online search, epidemic of sleep deprivation, boom, it'll come up. Sleep deprivation is a key factor in suicides.
Right.
No one knows that.
Sure.
The best research on suicide says not only is sleep deprivation a key factor in suicide, it is the most remediable factor. If we gave a dang about suicide, if we want to do anything about suicide, the place we would start is sleep.
Yeah.
So globally, every group, every population group, every demographic, every nation around the planet has seen an explosion in suicides without fail. Right. There's an explosion in suicide around the planet. And the new factor is this global explosion of this global epidemic of sleep deprivation. But the video game industry is never going to tell you, you've been playing this game for 48 hours. It's time to get some sleep now.
Yeah, maybe.
Facebook will never say,
no,
you've been online for 36 hours, time to get, they'll never do that. No. The head of Netflix said the number one competitor was not other online providers. The number one competitor is sleep.
That's insanity.
The corporate policy of Netflix is to steal your sleep.
That's insanity.
Care that it's stealing you. They don't care. They just want to sell their product. So here's the deal. My dad started smoking in 1940 when he was 5 years old.
Oh.
He plunked a nickel on the counter, couldn't look over the counter, but plunked a nickel on the counter, the local general store, bought a pack of Bull Durham tobacco and rolling papers, and started smoking at 5 years old. Hey, candy rots your teeth, right? Candy rots your teeth. Cigarettes are good for you. Well,
That's the message. Yeah, that was the message.
They had ads in, as your doctor, I recommend Camels. No, more dentists smoke Salem's.
Yeah.
So they had ads with doctors and dentists saying which brand of cigarettes they're poison. They're all poison.
Sure.
But the tobacco industry didn't care that they were killing people. They just wanted to sell their product. And that's where we're at. We got this industry with the video game.
That's the perfect analogy.
Yes, they designed a video game that's impossible to turn off. And they don't care the issue up to work with no sleep. They don't care. So sleep deprivation is a key factor in suicides and traffic deaths.
Sure.
For decades, we brought traffic deaths down. Airbags, seatbelts, medical technology. And now in every single nation around the planet, traffic deaths are exploding back up again. What is the new factor? Well, alcohol and sleep deprivation are the two key factors in traffic deaths. And what are the two killers of our cops?
Yeah.
It's suicide and traffic deaths.
Sure.
Now, here's the key. Sleep deprivation is also a key factor in opiate overdoses. Think about the opiate epidemic. Why opiates? Prescription opiates have always been there. Sure. Why is there this demand? Sleep deprivation creates chronic pain. Do an online search for sleep deprivation pain. Boom, comes right up. The tendons and muscles never had a chance to fully relax.
Well, that's what we always said, the pyramid, right? If you, for a healthy life, you needed exercise, you needed a proper diet, and the third component was rest. You needed to sleep.
Bingo. And if you don't get sleep, you get chronic pain. Doc, I heard all the time, give me a pill to fix. You don't need a pill, you need more sleep. And sleep deprivation is a key factor in obesity and heart disease.
Sure.
We know that. The data is irrefutable. And sleep deprivation is a key factor in Alzheimer's. The data, just do an online search, Alzheimer's and sleep deprivation, boom, it'll come right up.
Right.
So
it's crazy what you're saying, so there's two schools, right? So I remember distinctly, after 30 years, there were times that we would wear like a badge of honor that we hadn't been to bed in 2 days. Like that was something that we would brag about. Hey, I've got this operation, I've got that operation, I'm working that detail tomorrow, and I might close my eyes for an hour or two in the middle of that.
Here's the key. It's like showing up to work drunk.
Yeah, I did that too, boss.
18 hours without sleep, and you have impaired judgment equal to 0.08 legally drunk.
Sure.
24 hours without sleep, and you're the equivalent of 0.10 blood alcohol above legally drunk.
Sure.
If somebody showed up work drunk, you'd kick his ass.
Right, no doubt.
If he shows up to work sleep deprived, because he played freaking video games all night long, he binge watched TV shows in social media all night long, that's not funny.
No.
Oh, you had a sick baby, you stay up with a sick baby, man, we got you covered.
Right.
But night after night after night, you're up all night binge watching shows.
It becomes a way of life for people, doesn't it? Yeah.
And showing up to work sleep deprived is like showing up work drunk. We'll kick your ass.
Right.
There's nothing cute. There's nothing tough. There's nothing impressive.
No, we've got to rewrite the script on that.
Yes. And it's the one thing you can control tonight.
I can tell you, and you'll be happy to hear this. In my former agency, they didn't do a lot of things right. They have some really amazing people there that care deeply. I've got a major and a captain that instituted, they call it the Zen Den. It's a room at the office that if you need to close your eyes and decompress, half hour, 40 minutes, you're in there, dark room, allows you to reset for a minute.
I love it.
And
I love it.
And it's because what we ended up doing back in the day, Colonel, we would crash on our way home.
Yes. It physically and mentally crash.
No, actually hit the tree on the way home because you've been up, the lawn people, the baby, you didn't get the sleep that you needed. They're starting to understand the importance of sleep.
Yes.
And they're doing something substantive about it to help the individual officer.
I'll give you an angle on this now.
Go ahead.
I recently worked with a federal agency in New York City. And they love their agency. They love the way they're being treated. But the one thing they don't love is that if you're caught napping on the job, automatic suspension.
Yeah.
Now, NYPD, there's a lot of bad things happening in NYPD.
Sure.
A lot of people came to this agency from NYPD. Every precinct in NYPD has a dark place where you can crash for an hour. That you take your lunch hour and
Sure.
crash. I never knew that.
That's
This
amazing.
guy had
I didn't know that
transferred
either.
in what he said they won't talk about it out loud. I
No.
love calling it the Zen Den.
Sure, that's what they call it.
Who can complain about that? You need
Right.
to depressure. You need to decompress.
Right.
It's been a half an hour. And so this idea of having somewhere your lunch hour belongs to you, crash for an hour. And that really comes to sleep hygiene.
Sure.
This needs to be taught to kids in elementary school. Sleep hygiene, number one, naps are friend, but no less than 30 minutes. A 10-minute nap is a total waste of time.
Gotcha.
So shoot for 30 minutes. Now I teach F-22 and F-35 squadrons. I train Predator and Reaper squadrons. I always have the flight surgeon there.
Okay.
A flight surgeon is a scary, smart guy. I'm a full-blown MD, fully read up on the latest research, right? And one of these guys told me, the flight surgeon says, Dave, this is good info, but you got to make it clear. 30 minutes is not an effective nap. It's a minimum nap. You need at least 30 minutes to fall into deep cycle. I don't want to get back up again, sleep.
Right.
Anything less, and you heard about 20-minute power naps, but they almost always involve 5 minutes to wind down and 5 minutes to wind up. And just to be on the safe side, shoot for 30 minutes minimum.
Right.
So that means the snooze alarm is not our friend.
Correct.
The snooze alarm is an evil little button that makes you relive the worst part of every day over and over.
Right.
And you get a 10-minute snooze, another snooze, a third snooze. You just threw away 30 minutes of your life. You and anybody in the room with you.
Right.
In the end, you're throwing away chunks of your life. You're throwing away part of the day when you could be using some quality sleep. Set the alarm a half hour later and get the hell out of bed.
Sure.
And I'm serious, set your cell phone for 10 alarms, 6 o'clock, 6:01, 6:02, 6:03, 6:04. By the time turn them off, you're up.
Right.
The snooze alarm is doing actual psychological, physical harm to our bodies.
I don't doubt it.
And it comes back to self-discipline. Am I in charge of my body? Or is my body in charge of me? Am I in charge or is my body in charge? Right. My grandson graduated basic training. He's heard my class. He's helped me in my class many times. My grandson, Grandpa, on the first morning of basic training, the drill sergeant taught us, you can get straight the hell out of bed when you need to.
Yeah, no doubt. It's an effective approach. It happens once.
It's a life lesson.
I'm waiting on them. You'll get me on day one, but then day two, I'm already waiting on you.
So the snooze alarm is not our friend. And here's the most important thing of all. The dark is our friend.
Yeah.
We were made to sleep in total darkness. I'm a huge science geek. My favorite website, sciencedaily.com. Okay. I check it every day through almost every category. Major study in the sleep lab. Totally dark room. Bathroom light is on and the door is shut. The light coming under the crack of the bathroom door is enough light to stop your body from producing the melatonin that you need.
Tricks your brain, right? Tricks your brain into believing that you're not in that cycle.
Yes. One of the best things you could do is to totally black out the bedroom. Now, you know what? I do a lot of work with the fire service, right? Mm-hmm. And they're in the bunkhouse or the bunk room, right? And they've always got somebody they call the dark Nazi. Dark Nazi is the guy that spray paints the windows black from the inside. I tell them, guys, the dark Nazi is right.
Yeah.
Now, the thing to do with that is combine it with the sleep mask. If my wife won't let me spray paint the windows black from the inside, right? So when I'm trying to catch a nap during the day or I work late, I come in, dark 30, I'm getting some sleep. Well, we got the room dark, but it's daytime outside. There's way too much light. Combine it with the sleep mask. There's a sleep mask on Amazon that has over 60,000 reviews. 60,000.
Yeah, that's the one I'm getting. That's the one I'm getting.
Now, my wife likes a different one, and my grandson went to college.
Okay.
And my gift to him was several different kinds of sleep masks. Find the one you like. He likes the one that it's a big piece of cloth that wraps all around the face. My wife likes the one, it's a little sand filled and it creates weight on the eyes. Okay. I can't stand the weight. I like the one that has 60,000 reviews on Amazon.
All right. That's funny.
But one of the best things, you may not get one more minute of sleep. You get quality sleep if you're doing a total out of the room. And Don't use that snooze alarm, and getting
Right.
that time back into quality sleep.
Do you know, so speaking about this just triggered. So I'm 56,
Yeah.
and I would never get a good adequate sleep. Never. I snore a lot, right? So, long story short, went for a physical, sleep apnea. I got one of those masks, Colonel. I sleep 7, 8 hours uninterrupted. I wake up in the same position that I went to bed in. I'm up 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning because I wasn't up all night watching Netflix, and I am ready to tear into my day. And so it's just,
Yes, people tell me I love my CPAP.
yeah,
People tell me that I didn't realize how bad it was. I didn't realize how
yeah,
bad it was. I'll tell you a story now. Absolutely true. Navy SEAL Command Master Chief, Navy SEAL E9. He comes up to me after one of my presentations. He said, everybody on the team complained about my snoring.
right.
He said, everybody complained about my snoring. Finally, I was ordered to go to the sleep lab. Partway through the night, they woke me up. They said, Master Chief, you got sleep apnea. You have it bad. Wear this CPAP. Put me back to sleep. He said, I woke up the next morning after a good night's sleep for the first time in decades.
Right.
He said, I cannot properly communicate how great it felt
Yeah.
to have a good night's sleep after decades of bad sleep. He said, you know, no meal I've ever eaten, no sex I've ever had.
Right.
Yeah,
man.
go try a Navy SEAL that he's not doing sex right?
Right.
No,
Yeah.
no,
We're not having that conversation.
he said,
Yeah.
no, he said, nothing in my life has ever been as good as getting a good night's sleep with that CPAP machine. And they've got, the technology is advanced now.
Sure.
And they, you know, they're less intrusive.
Right. But you
just
wouldn't
got to
think
get,
something as simple as that
boom.
would have such the impact
Yes.
that it does.
Yes.
It's
You know,
something.
the other part of the thing on sleep is, you know, naps are our friend. The snooze alarm is not our friend.
Sure.
The dark is our friend. People say that sleep mask makes me hot. Well, we're supposed to make it dark and cool.
Sure.
Bring
Right.
the
Temperature.
thermostat down. Turn the ceiling fan on. But the next thing is that alcohol is not our friend.
No.
No more than one drink on the way to bed. Millions of people are using alcohol to put themselves to sleep. Now, a lot of people, oh, no alcohol at all. No, come on, don't try that. People aren't going to buy
Sure.
that.
Nothing, extremes don't work.
Yeah, no more than one drink on the way to bed.
Sure.
And people will buy that. And I tell people this, do your own research. Now, if I were king and could pass one law, I would mandate sleep for all first responders, like airline pilots and air traffic controllers and truck drivers required by federal law to get enough sleep, and cops aren't. That should enrage us. But if I were king and could give everybody a gift, I'd give them all a fitness tracker and track their sleep.
Okay.
And I wear that fitness tracker now. Pound down 4 beers and go to bed. And look what it does to your sleep. You will fall quickly into a shallow sleep. You wake up in an hour or so and can't get back to sleep. That's what alcohol is doing. We have millions of people using alcohol to put themselves to sleep, and it is the most counterproductive, destructive, harmful thing you could possibly do. If you need help, go to the doc. And start with melatonin, a neurotransmitter. As the body gets older and older, creates less and less melatonin, little tiny baby dose. But check with your doc in the process. You know, there's other things the doc can do to help, but please don't use alcohol to put you to sleep. And along with the global epidemic of sleep deprivation, we also have a global epidemic of caffeine abuse. These mega doses of caffeine. Now, the half-life of caffeine in your body is 5 hours. Okay. That means the caffeine you took at 5 p.m. is still at half strength when I go to bed at 10 p.m.
Gotcha.
And it's making us have bad quality sleep. Caffeine doesn't make you not sleep. Caffeine makes it easier to stay awake and harder to have quality sleep. Cut off caffeine shortly after lunch, and it will rock your world. But what do we got? We got these mega doses of caffeine. We got these energy drinks. We got all this stuff that we're supposed. They don't care that they're killing you. The caffeine industry doesn't care that they're killing your kid with these energy drinks. All they want to do is sell the product. So we're now been at war for almost 22 years. We're still in Iraq, many other places. For the first 15 years of war, the U.S. Armed Forces passed out energy drinks like water.
Sure. That and Ambien.
Now, set that aside for a minute. Yeah,
Okay.
they gave us energy drinks by the pallets, and we give them the tubes. Aren't we nice guys?
Yeah, yeah.
Then about 6 or 7 years ago, two major Department of Defense-wide studies on energy drinks. Today, for all practical purposes, there is a complete ban on issuing energy drinks to U.S. Armed Forces. They're like alcohol. Want to buy your own, like cigarettes. Want to buy your own? You're an adult. Not going to stop you.
Yeah, we're
We'll
not
never
gonna
buy it
we're
for
not
you.
gonna provide it for you.
We're never going to provide it. In an academic environment, that one with the most energy drinks were the ones with the worst grades. In a tactical environment, the one with the most energy drinks were the ones most likely to nod off on the job. That guy on the SWAT team pounded down energy drinks. He's the weak link in the chain. He's the one most likely to nod off on the perimeter.
Wow.
All there is in those energy drinks is a mega dose of caffeine and sugar and some stuff to make you metabolize it quickly. It will give you a 1 hour burst of physical ability, and then you crash.
Right.
Before a PT test, before an athletic event, not a bad idea, but don't plan on doing anything. Now, the second one feels good for 10 minutes, you crash. Third one feels good for 5 minutes, you crash. But after the first energy drink, all you're doing is building your tolerance to the drug. And we're in the middle of an epidemic of caffeine addiction. It is a powerful, addictive, useful drug. And the source of caffeine is important. Coffee and tea appear to be really good for us. Water, recent research said that we've all seen it just recently, that longevity purposes, you increase your lifespan by 20% by having at least 4 quarts of water a day.
Right.
You increase.
Oh, yeah, that Huberman lab. If you follow Andrew Huberman, the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I drink 24 ounces of water, right? Because I was dehydrated from 8 hours of not drinking anything. I don't really drink coffee right away. I'll have a cup of coffee 90 minutes after I've been up. I mean,
John,
this is common knowledge, right?
But you just put a bullet in my magazine. You just put a round in my magazine to get up in the morning and take a couple of glasses of water because you wake up dehydrated, and your body needs it. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. I'm a pretty well-read and informed guy. So, iron sharpens iron.
Yes, it does.
And we'll disseminate this information. I'm going to make that part of my presentation from this point on. Boom.
Absolutely.
But that recent research was flat out 20% additional life expectancy by properly hydrating. Not sodas, not coffee. Right. But and Gatorade at half strength is good. Replaces the electrolytes. Sure. Cut it with water 50%, or pay the same amount and get G2, which is cut 50% with water
already for you. Yeah.
But God, just cut that caffeine off after lunch.
Right.
And it'll rock your world. Caffeine is the enemy of good sleep. Guard your sleep. Protect your sleep. Sleep is a civil right, a biological need. It's a little vacation that comes at the end of every day. So starting tonight, take charge of your life. Starting tonight.
Awesome. Yeah.
No less than a 30-minute nap. Snooze alarm is not our friend. Don't touch that snooze alarm. Sleep in a totally dark room. Bring the temperature down a couple of degrees. And cut off caffeine shortly after lunch. No, do not use alcohol to put yourself to sleep.
Right.
Starting tonight, you can rock your world. You take charge of your life and rock your world. Now, one other thing about controlling yourself. The past is done. About self-control. The only thing you control is yourself. Now, when people become angry, when they become upset, one of the things we can do that pulls you from fight or flight to rest and digest is a big swig of water. A deer's being chased by a wolf. You can stop, get a drink. You're really thirsty. I can't get a drink. I'm being chased by a wolf. The fact you stop and take a big swig of water is a calming impact. Now, there's an angle on this I want you to take. Now, in the medical community, just going through the medical community like a firestorm is a technique they're using. You got somebody in the ER, a crackhead, a meth head. You got somebody just out of control of the emergency room. You know what they do? They grab a bag of M&Ms. They rip it open. They shove his face. Would you like some M&Ms? And demonstrate it over and over again, hospital after hospital, across America, across the world. The majority of the time, it immediately defuses the situation. It pulls you from fight or flight for rest and digest. It does that. So here's something I want you to think about. Now, just because I've done it so long and so much, by most definitions, I'm America's #1 law enforcement trainer. And I've been the #1 target for Antifa and defund the police. And they've sick stuff about, Grossman's teaching people to kill, killology,
That nonsense.
criminology.
Right.
Yeah, criminology is not about teaching people to be criminals. Killology is not about teaching people to
No,
kill.
it's not.
Yeah, and the
No.
biological backlash, and after a life and death event, we seek reassurance, and there can be powerful sex, and they take that stuff out of context, they attack. So I get nasty grams from these people. I get an email that'll curl your hair, what they do to my family, what they do. I'm a big fan of there's online guys that'll take officersurvival.com. They'll take your name and get the docs info off anywhere. You can't go online and find out who you are and come kill your family. But we get these threat emails, and I can't control what these idiots are going to do.
Right.
I can only control how I choose to respond. So I've got some candy that my family gives me, a couple of boxes at birthday and Christmas. I get like one a week. I treat myself. I go with the nasty grams. I get a piece of candy. And I say
I thought you were going to say you send them some M&Ms to chill them out.
They never give their address. They never give a real address. You can never track it back, but I put it in my class, and now they come back and say, "You evil bastard.
Yeah.
We tell the evil you are, and you get a chocolate covered cherry." That's right. So who wins now? So here's the point. I like Tootsie Rolls. They're individually wrapped. They stay clean. They're good in the heat. They're good in the cold. They remind me of Halloween candy,
Right.
So keep a little bag of Tootsie Rolls in your vehicle. And when somebody gets in your face, you tell yourself, because this bad thing is happening, I get to go have a Tootsie Roll.
There you go.
And it truly is a cognitive therapy. It is, you're taking what they're trying to hurt you and turning it into something positive. And you only get one of those Tootsie Rolls.
Right.
Somebody makes you mad, when somebody makes you angry. You go back to your car, you have that Tootsie Roll. And when you're burning with anger, when you're burning with rage, you put that in your mouth, pulls your fight or flight to rest and digest. So, when somebody's in your face, and the stuff that, the only thing, when you lose your temper, you didn't lose your temper. You gave it away.
Yeah.
It's
excellent point.
It's the only thing in the universe you can control.
Yeah. Excellent
you didn't
point.
lose your temper. But that's so easy to say. It's not so
hard
easy
to do in the moment, though, right?
Exactly. So just tell yourself, Tootsie Roll. Tootsie Roll.
There you go.
Because of this idiot, I get to go back to my car.
Because
that's
awesome. I love it. That's awesome.
Truly, the only thing in the universe you can control is yourself. The past is done. It's just that. It's past. Just like you said in the book. Focus on now.
Right.
The only thing in the universe can control is how you choose to respond. And if you lose your temper, they win. You didn't lose it. You gave it away.
I love that.
These dynamics of reaching out and owning your life and taking control. I love the book, Surviving Self-Inflicted Wounds. I guess you really nailed so many good stuff in there. And
I appreciate that, Colonel. Yeah, it was done out of love. It was done out of love all the way around. I want to be respectful. I could talk to you for hours, sir.
Just put together a list of things, and we'll do it again in a couple of months.
Can we do that?
Just ping me in a couple of months with kind of a list, and we'll go ahead and we'll go at it. You know what? I love you got your coins up there behind you there.
Yes, sir.
You know what? One of my favorite books, I wrote the forward to it. It's called Secrets of Mental Marksmanship.
Okay.
And they talk about you could use this for your kid's soccer team. You could use it for your kid's baseball team, but for every aspect of performance psychology, they give a police example, a military example, a competition example, a hunting example, make it all come alive. Well, one of the things they say in this book is the world will always try to pull you down. You need to be your own biggest fan.
Right.
The world will pull you down. We don't need you to help pull you down.
Yeah, that's
you need to give yourself the right to put those coins up on the wall.
Right.
You have the right to put that stuff up there and be proud of who you are and be proud of what you do. My wife's got a couple of little locations in their house with worn out Bibles. To her, one of the neatest things that she's ever done is she's worn out a Bible. She got a couple, she's got a little place,
Sure.
And the world will line up to kick you in the tail and pull you down. You've got to be your own biggest fan. So, you know, here you are with those coins back behind you. Well done. Well done. You know, that's one of the things we can share and we can talk about next time and go in more detail on some of that stuff. But
I would love that. I would love that. Colonel, we started off with sometimes the ultimate expression of love is not to sacrifice your life, but to live a life of sacrifice. And that is the life you are living, sir. And it has been an absolute honor and a privilege to sit down with you. Thank you so much for your time. And I am really looking forward to the next time that you and I get to sit down and try to figure some things out.
Oh, John, it's two-way street, brother. I get fired up and uplifted by being on a podcast with somebody like you every day. You know, I truly, people say, how do you hang in there after all these years? I would tell them vitamin J, Jesus, you know?
Yeah.
And you, people like you in that class who want to come hear what I got to say, leave me fired up every day and renew my faith and renew my hope for our future.
Colonel, before we wrap, how can, if somebody wants to follow you, if somebody wants to, we'll go into the website, put the website out for us so people can.
Well, you know, it's, thank you, GrossmanOnTruth.com, the truth on combat, the truth on killing. And my new back, on hunting is coming out in March. You can't understand human beings without understanding hunting. You can't understand combat. You can't understand killing without understand hunting, you know?
Well, you know what? And that'll be a perfect intro for our next conversation because I was a canine handler for many years. And that Ernest Hemingway quote, certainly there's no hunting like the hunting of a man.
Yes.
And those who have hunted armed men long enough and like it never care for anything else thereafter.
And you know, one other thing Hemingway said, life breaks everyone. And usually we're stronger in the broken spots.
Yeah.
So iron sharpens iron. We uplift one another, brother. And the website again is GrossmanOnTruth.com. The truth.
And I'll put all that information in the show notes so people can.
And you and all the, you know what, one final thing. I always try to honor the people who go to the effort of putting these podcasts together. You're not doing this for money. You're not doing this to get rich.
Yeah.
And they honor the people who listen to it. You're not satisfied with a 5-minute soundbite. Your listener right now is somebody who's seeking deeper levels of knowledge. So I honor you for the podcast, and I honor those people that are listening, and they're not satisfied with the 5-minute soundbite. They're not satisfied with the headline online. They want to seek deeper knowledge, and it's one of the more reassuring things in our civilization, the whole podcast revolution. So well done, my brother.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Colonel, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation. Thank you. All right. That was awesome. That was awesome.
And like you said, we'll put together a list of things. And I meant what I said. Just a great little book, John.
I really listen. You know, I sent those off to you and Mike. I sent you a little patch, and you know, I've been retired since 2020, and
what a crummy time to be retired.
I retired. I walked out the door. Nobody even knew I left.
Yeah.
I did 30 years. It was right in the middle of COVID. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to skedaddle. It's time to go. I finished the drop and everything. And I said, you know what? I'm just not, I was the motor sergeant. So I ran around Pence and Trump and Biden. I had a little bit of time with the Secret Service. And, you know, one of my guys, we were in the motor barn and we were like, you know, I'm like, what am I going to do now? I'm not done. I still have more. And one of the guys was like, you know, well, you can buy like widgets on, you know, for $1 and sell them on eBay for like $10 and you can do, and I'm going, what the hell are you talking about? And then one of my guys looked over at me, and I would run, when I'd run briefings for the Tri-County area, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. Anytime Trump, Pence, anybody came to the Southeast Florida, I was the guy that coordinated with the Secret Service for the motorcades and you know, safe houses and all that nonsense. And I made it a point to let the guys know what the priority was. It's first you, the guy riding next to you, and somewhere down the line it's Trump or Pence or so. We don't need to worry about them. They've got cat teams and everything else to take care of them. You need to take care of you and the guy riding next to you. And so one of my guys said to me, he goes, why don't you do what you've always done? And he said, you take care of us. And I just went, I was humbled in that moment. I was like, I can do that. I can do that mission.
Make a note right now, because I'll forget it.
Yeah.
I just live so intensely in the moment. Make a note right now to talk about that when we get back together again. And really, 6 months from now, let's do it again.
Yes.
And make a note. I can't tell you, I love every one of the podcasts. I'm very intensely in the moment, and then it's gone. And I just roll to the next one, like my presentations. But let's talk about that. What a great example of you, driving on. I don't recall, you really didn't dig into that in your book, really.
No, the other thing was, Colonel, this was the first book I ever wrote. It was the first time I have done. There's been a lot of firsts for me in my life, and I want to, I want to go back to the writing, and I think there's more to tell.
Well, when the time comes, I'd be honored to do a forward for it.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'd be honored, buddy. That's my favorite form of writing, is writing forwards for good work.
Are you kidding me?
I love it. It'd be an honor.
That would be. Yeah. I will write a book just so you will do that.
Well, you know what? You've got such a good book right now. Just, start making it better. Think of a few things to add to it. That's the nice thing. On Killing was a major publisher, and I had one more piece of the apple. I tuned it up and put a second edition. It's done. On Combat, I self-publish. Okay. And so I've got its 4th and 5th edition. I'm able to go back and that's
my favorite, by the way, is On Combat.
Thanks. Most people, I think it's the most important one too. Right. Others disagree, and they don't hurt my feelings, but
sure.
But I've been able to go back and rewire that a couple of times. I've got another major rewrite that's going to have to be done in a year or so. Sure. But you were able to more or less self-publish, right?
I did self-publish.
Yes, and you can do more of that. You can do it on Amazon. Is this listed on Amazon?
It's on Amazon.
Yeah, I should have looked. I always try to look for that.
Yeah.
But I'll go on and do a review right now. As soon as we're done, I'll go and do a quick review.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. Think about fine-tuning it. I'll do the forward to it.
That'd be awesome.
So often a book is like a child born on life support. You just got to provide CPR for the book.
No doubt. And
unless you're a president writing his memoirs, your books are out there fighting for life and fighting for breath. But we can kind of give this book a second shot, a second bite of the apple.
That would be awesome.
Tune it up a little bit, not too much, because it's really a beautiful size, a beautiful amount, and when you're ready, this self-publishing thing is good. Amazon makes it work.
Right.
That's what I'm doing with On Combat.
Right.
And just keep rolling.
I will.
If you got another book, this was just my thought, was maybe there's another book beyond this that you're thinking of. I think you could fine tune this and roll it back out again, and do a forward to it, and kind of expand on some of the key points. You're rocking.
That'd be awesome. I would appreciate that like you don't know.
Hurrah. Awesome. Iron sharpens iron, brother.
It does. Colonel, let me tell you, man, thank you so much. I am on a high right now that no drug could ever provide.
See, but it's a two-way street. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
That's what keeps us going. God bless you, brother.
God bless. We'll talk soon.
All right. There, boy.